Well, it looks like it's that time again in Formula 1. It's time to talk about some more F1 driver transfers. We had the whole Albon and Gasly thing a few weeks ago at the very start of the summer break, and coming off the back of the summer break into the Belgium Grand Prix weekend, we have now some more driver transfer news. Esteban Ocon, the man who we thought might be going to Mercedes for a lot of this year, even the end of last year, is now confirmed to be going to Renault F1 for 2020 to partner Daniel Ricciardo in a multi-year contract, we're told. So that'll be at least 2 years. We'll have Ricciardo and Ocon, the French-Australian connection there at the Renault F1 team. Big news, because Mercedes confirmed that Bottas will be staying with Mercedes earlier today alongside Hamilton for 2020. So that was the safe option for Mercedes. In my opinion, very boring option, because I don't mind Bottas. He's been a decent driver. He's a very decent number 2 to Hamilton. But obviously, you guys know me. I'd rather have a bit of spice at the front of the grid. But obviously, these F1 teams can't think about the spice first and foremost. They have to think about their money they're investing, their championship points and whatnot. So they've gone for the safe option of signing Bottas again for 2020. But that left Ocon hung and dry. Once again, maybe not having a seat in Formula 1. Then there was news that he might be going to Renault. Of course, Ocon is no stranger to Renault, and he literally actually cites that in his interview kind of piece on the Renault F1 website for this announcement there. He says, he's very proud to join as a Renault driver. He's grown up at Enstone, starting with Lotus in 2010, and then was with Renault, because in 2016 he was actually part of the junior program of Renault, basically, and then he kind of switched alliances to Mercedes when Toto Wolff and Merck kind of sweeped him up, basically, and thought, okay, this kid's pretty damn good. Renault aren't doing much with him, let's pick him up here. But obviously, in the end, Mercedes did not have much to do because they didn't have a seat available. Obviously, they brought through Bottas, and then that was it, pretty much. They've had Bottas now for 3 years, and they haven't been able to find Ocon a seat else. Russell, their other young driver, had to go find a seat on his own accord at Williams by himself with no real Mercedes help, even though he's still technically a Mercedes junior driver. That was his own kind of accord to go and drive for Williams and get that deal done with his own negotiation power. So for Ocon, kind of just left there, and so it's great for him as a young driver with clearly a decent amount of talent, I would say. There's been a lot of debate on Twitter I'm seeing right now with this announcement. A few people saying that they're not too sure at this stage. They're kind of, some people are saying that Ocon may be a little bit overrated in a way, and some people saying no, he's still underrated. For me personally, I like I just said, I think he's a young talent that still got a lot to show. Maybe I don't think he's been given the exact platform to completely show what he's got. Obviously, he had his stint at Force India, which went pretty well. Obviously, a bit of argy-bargy stuff with Sergio Perez here and there, but all in all, I think he showed a very mature drive actually at Force India overall, and a very solid one. And I think it would have been really unfortunate not to see him drive in 2020. So the fact he's got a Renault drive is absolutely awesome, because Renault, obviously, it's a team that is trying to transition into one of the top teams. They came 4th place last year in the Constructors. They've had Ricciardo now come to the team, big name come to the team this year. Obviously, it hasn't gone so well this year. All areas of the team, Ricciardo, Hulkenberg, Cyril Bitbull, everyone has said that this year hasn't exactly been the major step up they were hoping for. But Ricciardo's seen positives in this year and believe they can keep on making strides forward for next year. And I guess the mindset here maybe is just have a completely all fresh new lineup for 2020 in terms of, you've got Ricciardo in for this year, and that's actually been a really positive impact, I think. In many ways, I think Renault have seen positivity from Ricciardo, the way he works, and the car itself maybe has changed a little bit compared to how Ricciardo wants it. Obviously, we've seen in recent races Ricciardo finally able to do his kind of more Ricciardo-esque kind of dive bombs to the inside to make overtakes, as they've kind of finally found the way to tweak the car to the way he wants it to. And I think maybe perhaps as a way of, having Ocon in just brings a fresh set of eyes to the car, fresh set of development eyes in terms of where they want the car to go, compared to Hulkenberg, who's done obviously a stunning job. Last 3 years he's been there at Renault. He joined Renault when they were 9th place, and he's seen them basically go up to 4th place, which is amazing. So you can't deny that Hulkenberg's done a massive job for Renault. But I think maybe at this stage now, where they hit that plateau, maybe it's the time now to just have a whole new driver lineup and not have any originality from where they started from in 9th place there. So to have Ocon there, I think it's going to be really good. Obviously, you've got that French connection of Ocon being French. It's a French outfit, so I think PR-wise, it's going to be brilliant for them. I'm sure they'll be milking that so much in terms of every PR event they can do now next year. We'll have a lot of, French kind of, how do you say it, like a French vibe to it, bleeding through because of the whole Ocon and Renault pairing. And I think as a pairing, Ocon and Ricciardo, I think that could go quite well. Obviously, I've not seen too much of Ocon and Ricciardo interacting that much, to be honest, but I think, in my mind at least, it would seem like those two would get along quite well. As obviously, Ricciardo just gets along with pretty much most drivers on the grid, Alan, maybe barring a few here and there, so I think that'd be a good pairing for those two. And like I said, just a different kind of vibe, essentially, of Ocon hungry. He's had a whole year out of F1. He is going to be gagging to really show what he can do in an F1 car. He said that as well. He knows it's a big responsibility to get back up into F1 at a very high level here with Renault, and so he's being entrusted with basically taking over the reins and continuing this upward shoot of Renault. So it's a big deal for him, a lot of pressure for him, but I'm sure he's going to take it by the scruff of his neck, because watching Bottas out there, I'm sure, especially at the race like the German Grand Prix where Bottas crashed out, Ocon would have been like, you know what, I should be there. I should be in one of those cars right at the forefront. Obviously, Renault is not going to be right at the forefront, you would say, probably in 2020, but obviously it's further up than he maybe was used to with Force India in terms of, right now Renault are trying to establish themselves right there, whereas Force India, the first year Ocon was there, maybe trying to still be an established midfield team, whereas Renault is looking further ahead rather than further back, you would say. In terms of Renault for the rest of the year now, what does this mean? Because Hulkenberg now, well, we don't know what Hulkenberg is going to do. There might be some news that comes in later today, so as I make this video, it may be announced that Hulkenberg either goes to somewhere like Haas, potentially, because Haas have said there was a three-man shortlist for their drivers, which was going to be Hulkenberg, Ocon, and Grosjean in terms of who they maybe pick, actually, just before this Renault news broke. So it looks likely, I would say, I'm going to guess that Hulkenberg would go to Haas then, to partner Magnussen, which is very funny, actually, because obviously those two have definitely had a little bit of butting heads, as it were. They've definitely come over each other, so in a way, it wouldn't make sense. So, I don't know, I would guess Hulkenberg would go to Haas, but also at the same time, you can see why not. But for the rest of the year, in terms of Hulkenberg, I don't know, if you were him, let me know in the comments below. If you were Hulkenberg at this point now, would you start to maybe switch off? Maybe not intentionally, but would you subconsciously switch off a little bit because you've now been booted from Renault effectively? I don't know. I feel like for me, I would subconsciously switch off, because what's the point now? Why would I continue to go and give my flatter? Obviously, I'll try my best on the face of it, but underneath, I don't think you'll be 100% wanting to give your absolute all now, because you're not going to be racing for this team now next year. Even though you've had a great 3 years, you've effectively been ousted because your contract's not going to get renewed, because his contract ends at the end of this year. So that's why a Bitball was saying that it was quite a tough decision, because obviously his contract is coming to the end, but and it's been such a great journey that it was a tough decision for them. Another reason why Ocon going to Renault might be really good for them is something that Cyril points out, is that obviously he's had the ability to score points before when he was in F1. He's had great professionalism, the way he's kind of treated being away from F1 off the track as well, and also the fact that he has been a reserve driver for Mercedes. He's probably done some work for Merc back at the factory and whatnot. Could be a great asset for the team. The knowledge that Ocon has now from within Mercedes maybe can be a little bit of not a massive thing, but a little bit of help towards Renault. Obviously, there's not going to be like actual figures and numbers that you can remember or whatnot, but just experience and the way maybe Merc went about certain things might help Renault out with that experience from Ocon himself. I think also Ocon's driving style was a bit more aggressive, I think, than Hulkenberg. I think Hulkenberg has I don't know, he's not really been known to be a super punchy driver, nor is he being kind of more of a calm, collected kind of nurse the car home sort of driver, but he's not really been so punching compared to the likes of your Ricciardos, your Verstappens, and I think Ocon is in that category, or could be in that category of punchier drivers, basically. I mean, obviously we saw the way he fought with Perez, the way he stood up for himself against that kind of whole infighting with Sergio Perez, so I think both of those line up really well, Ricciardo and Ocon, to drive for that car in a way where that Renault could turn into a great car under braking, perhaps, and that's a way they can find some more time. Obviously, they need to still work on their engine as well, and also the aero in terms of catching up to McLaren, because they've got that physical comparison of the two Renault engines and the McLaren, so they still have a lot of work to do in that kind of sense, but like I said, I think it's just going to be a great platform for them to bounce off it. But I want to know what you guys make of every bit of news so far. So first of all, the whole Bottas re-signing for Mercedes, let me know how you guys are feeling about that. Like I said, I personally think it's the safe but a little bit boring option, but that's just how it is sometimes with Mercedes and the top teams. They need to go for the safer option, so let me know in the comments below what you think about that. And then the whole Ocon to Renault, and subsequently then Hulkenberg, where does that leave him? Does he go to Haas, maybe somewhere like Alpha? I don't know. Back to Racing Point, I can't see it really, but you never know. But basically now Hulkenberg has to find a seat, and Hulkenberg really is a staple midfield driver, very solid. I feel will be top of the pile in terms of if you're looking at midfield drivers to sign, if you're a midfield team, you'd go for Hulkenberg. So I think he's going to be a driver in demand. It's just about where he decides to go and what other teams kind of want him. But knowing the podcast curse, perhaps the time I upload the video, Hulkenberg will be announced to Haas or something like that. We'll have to keep your eyes out for it, but for now, that is where we are at. Renault signed to Ocon for 2020, multi-year contract, so probably a 2-year deal at most, and then Bottas will be renewed extension for 1 year for 2020 alongside Hamilton and Hulkenberg in 3-4. Guys, if you did enjoy the video, hit that like button. Let me know what you thought about all that stuff and the transfers, like I said, in the comments below. If you're on your own here, do subscribe for weekly Formula content. I've been Alpha. Have a good day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.